Full disclosure, the reason I have a mohawk is because this is what I was for Halloween. Alright, today we're going to install this vanity. I have it sitting here just kind of mocked up, making sure everything's going to line up. So there's a few tools that you need for your vanity to install. Stud finder, a level, some shims, and some screws that are going to be long enough to go through the back of the vanity into your stud. That way it never moves around. And you're also going to need some sort of drill or impact driver. So the front of my vanity is open, so you can put your hand underneath there. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to put my shims underneath the two sides and then try to get them even. And sometimes when you're doing this, it'll also bring your level back this way also. All right, well, just putting those two shims in made this thing level. So now what I'm going to do is move my camera again. That way I can show you how to put on the screws for the back. So if you notice here, this is touching, this side is touching, but my wall is just a little bit out. But what I can do is I can screw this in, but what that's going to do is it's going to throw my levelness off. So what I'll do is I'll take some of these shims and I'll stick them behind here. Okay, and where they're tapered, I can make this thing perfect and hold them in there. And then that way, my cabinetry is not being pulled up when I screw it in place. So those are being held right there. So what I want to do is just take one of my screws and screw it into the stud. So now that I put my first one in there, I'm going to go ahead and check and make sure I'm level. So that pulled back a little bit and got me a little bit out of level. But what I can do is take this front down because my shims are in there. And then get it back into level. So let's check it again this way. So now this side seems to be too high. And it's just one of those things that you got to play with it a little bit. So now that it's all installed and everything's level, you can take a razor knife and score these shims and they'll break. or if you have like a sonic tool, it'll cut those right off too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring my vanity top back in, set it in place, and just make sure everything's going to line up right. So now that that's on there, I know it's going to work out right. So what I can do is I can get out some silicone, and where this touches the top at, I can put a bead of silicone on there, and then that is what's going to hold this top into place. So once it's in place also, I'll go ahead and caulk it in, the vanity and everything, and that way it gives it a nice look. And I'm just peeling enough of this plastic off of here just to give me an idea of what I want to see right here. I don't want to take it all off because I'm still doing a little bit of work in here and I don't want it to get destroyed. So a nice tip before you install this is to go ahead and put your faucet on. That way you don't have to lay on your back up underneath here and try to tighten up the nuts. So I'm going to open this up and go ahead and slide this forward a little bit. That way I can go ahead and install it really easy. So what I'm using here is called plumber's putty. Basically it's I don't know, it's just a putty that plumbers use. Basically it's a waterproof seal that's pliable and you can make whatever you need. And what I'm doing is I'm putting it underneath the top of the faucet. That way when water does get up on the vanity top and everything, it's not going to leak down into your cabinetry. And you know, all these cabinets are pretty much pressed wood, and if they get wet they swell and then you have to buy a new one. So that's what I'm protecting with right here. You can see in me installing the valves right here. One nice thing they did is when you did this, one was red and one was blue. So that way when you put them on, you knew which one was which. The top of them actually slid down and I had to readjust one because it was not lining up perfectly straight with the vanity when it was turned on, and when it was turned off, one was kicked back a little bit further than the other. Other than that, it was a pretty easy install. All right, what I'm doing here is I'm actually putting down a bead of caulk so that when I set the vanity top down, it will adhere to the top of it. I'm also putting down a little bit of tape so that any silicone that gets squished out, it's not going to get onto the wood. And I am not that great of a caulker, but I use tape as a guideline. That way I can be a little messy, but this way it gives me a perfect caulk line every time. And you see me readjusting the tape. That way I get a good nice. You don't want to make it too small because it'll shrink up a little bit and then crack. So that's what I'm doing right here is making a perfect caulk line. So you can see I make a little bit of a mess, but it looks worse than what it is. I'm getting ready to pull off all the tape right here in a second, and you can see how it reveals to be a real nice caulk line. So I hope you took something away from this little video and you can install a vanity on your own now. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.